And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into O'Neill's Grill for our weekly fan and press luncheon, basketball luncheon this week with JMU women's basketball coach Kenny Brooks to start things off. And then we'll hear from JMU men's basketball coach Matt Brady this afternoon as well. A very pleasant good Monday to you, one and all. I'm Kurt Dudley. JMU women's basketball Dukes won a couple of ball games since we were here last Monday. First of all, beat Richmond at home, 79-68, and then yesterday down at Davidson, North Carolina, defeated the Davidson Wildcats by a score of 73-57. It is exam week, Coach. So now that we're 8 games in, what kind of grade would you give the Dukes?
Are they listening?
Hopefully they're studying right now,
Yeah,
so let's say no.
Exactly. I really like where we are. I do. But and I think part of the reason that I like where we are so much is not because of our record 7-1, but because of how much we still have to grow. And I think we can get so much better. And the fact that we are 7-1 is a big plus, and it proves that we're a very talented basketball team. But, you know, from the inside, you know, from a coach's perspective, I just know how much better they can get. We haven't touched the surface. We haven't even really implemented probably half of our offense or defensive schemes, and it's been purely going, you know, just trying to generate some chemistry, and they've done a great job with that. And and they're playing hard. You know, we don't always play smart. We don't always play the best of our ability, but we're playing well, and we're playing well and based off of our talent. So I'm very pleased with what we're doing, and I like where we can go.
Throughout the years, you and I, and as well as Mike Schick, when we've discussed about when you come into each new season, there are some times when you can just roll the ball out and they pick up right where they left off the year before. When you have younger teams, you've got to do a little bit more whistleblowing, a little bit more coaching and teaching. But now that you're a more experienced coach, do you find it a little more efficient to apply your wisdom and get your young teams to where you want them to be a little earlier in the year?
Well, I think so. I mean, obviously, I've gained a lot of experience, hence the gray hairs all over, you know, but just understanding, you know, from previous situations what to do, what not to do. And this group, you know, they're tough in certain situations, certain areas, and they're delicate in others. And just trying to figure out the balance of when to push those buttons and what buttons to push. And you know, you look at our team, and we're mixed. We're pretty veteran, but we're also new to our new roles. You know, last year when Mickens would turn the ball over, I could just sit her down. You know, and you know, Precious, you know, last year really just ran free and didn't have to be the focal point of the actual offense and where we're going to get it to. How is she performing? Lady Okafor, her minutes were sporadic last year. You know, now they're more consistent, and she's going to have to be a productive player for us. So, you know, it's me learning them learning their new roles, and right now I think they're doing a really good job of that. You know, we're extremely talented, and there's times when we play during stretches of a game that I think we're one of the better teams in the country. You know, but we also have stretches where we kind of have a lull and we fall asleep a little bit, and that's where we have a lot of room to grow. And when we get that down pat, you know, we put together, you know, a string of, I don't know if anybody can play a 40-minute, you know, great game, but if we have, you know, more stretches where we're like 35 minutes out of the 40, we're going to be a very dangerous basketball team.
Let's take a look at the 2 games that you played last week. Going back to the Richmond game, a 16-0 burst coming out of the gate in the second half. What buttons did you push to create that explosion? You were at a rate to score 64 points in the period.
Well, you know, it's a lot of people ask me, what did you say at halftime? And, you know, there's some halftimes where I really get after them. This halftime I really didn't have to. It's pretty much an even keel speech about what they needed to do, and they stepped it up. And I thought the difference in that game, the first half, we didn't play bad. You know, you almost could argue, Matt's not in here, but our point total with the Richmond Spiders in the first half was almost their total, you know, the whole game. But it was up and down. It was up and down. We knew Richmond was going to play that way. We knew they were going to, you know, push the envelope in transition, and we just didn't get the stops we needed on the defensive end to spearhead our offense. The second half, we buckled down. We got those stops, and you know, and our offense is really generated by what we do on defense. You know, we kick it out. You know, Mickens is running the show. She's running the fast break. You know, she's finding players where they need to be, penetrating, getting the ball where it needs to go. And we didn't have that in the first half, and I thought she did a really good job in the second half of really getting that going, and gave us that big run. And it's evident. You know, she's one of our most valuable players. It's evident that we had everything hitting on all cylinders until she got in foul trouble. She got into foul trouble. She sat down. We were a little disjointed. You know, Richmond was able to cut into the lead a little bit. We put her back in the game. We pushed her back out to a comfortable margin. But she's a big part of what we do.
Defensively in that game, the second half and the first half, you mentioned that to a certain degree, but one, the runouts that Richmond was getting in the first half were basically non-existent, and it seemed like you slowed their offense down. They had to think a lot more in their half-court offense during the second half.
It is, and I've talked with David Taylor extensively about this. We've been talking about our defense and the needs to improve in our defense. I think you always want to do that. But I think where I get caught up sometimes is I compare this team to last year's team, which is, no doubt our best defensive team that I've ever had here. When you have Nikki and you have Kirby, and they make up for a lot of mistakes, and they understand it, and they're both, a senior and a fifth-year senior. They know the schemes, and you take that out, and you've implemented a couple of new players. It's not going to be as good as it was last year, but it's still pretty good. Still pretty good. When we really get it going, we're stifling. We can run you off the three-point line. We can block your shot. We can grab the rebound. It's just that I think I get caught up sometimes comparing it to last year's. And as a coach, we were 29-6 last year, and I remember all the good times at the end of the season. But this time last year, we were still trying to figure ourselves out as well. So I think we're right on par defensively. I think we'll get better and better. We gain a body this week, and I think that adds to our depth. I think some of our mistakes happen when some of our kids get tired because they're playing too many minutes right now, and I think with an added body and Ashley Perez, that's going to help in that category. So I'm excited where we can go.
Yesterday, you jumped out to a 10-0 lead, built that lead to as many as 21, but the Wildcats at Davidson gave you a couple more gray hairs, I guess, got to within 5. But what happened in that ball game there in Davidson, North Carolina?
You know what, Kurt? It's a people will think I'm crazy when I say this, but sometimes when you get off to such a great start, it's almost the worst thing that can happen. We were up by 21 with, I think, maybe 5 or 6 minutes to go in the half. Fatigue set in a little bit. We played some kids. We were in foul trouble. I think Toya and Lady both had 2 fouls. So we were playing our guards extensively. They got tired. We made a couple mistakes and kind of snowballed. And it was almost like we let our foot off the pedal a little bit. And instead of finishing the half, we allowed them to get some easy baskets. We went to a zone, which was my fault. They hit 2 threes consecutively, and they cut the lead down. And from that point on, we were playing nip and tuck until probably like the last 8 minutes of the game, and then we really put it out of reach. But again, it's growing pains. This is the week. This is a very tough week, where some people have visions of candy canes dancing in their head. I think Lady Okafor had visions of physics dancing in her head while we were calling some plays. And it's just a hard week. We travel to Davidson. We come back. Today they're in exams. They're in the office right now, and a couple of them have already taken exams. So you don't really know where their mind, their focus is totally at. After this week, as my coach used to famously say, now you guys will become professional basketball players. And that's a great week for us because we get to implement more of our offense. We get to have their full undivided attention. But this week, to go to Davidson, to come away with a 17-point victory the day before exams, I think that's a pretty good accomplishment because that's a pretty good team. It's a pretty good team, and I think they're going to win a lot of basketball games.
While you're talking about that subject, going into exams can be just as difficult as coming out of exams for college basketball teams. All of them go through it at this time of year.
It's the roughest 2 weeks, because what we're going to go through, the game going into exams is extremely tough. You don't know where their focus is. The game coming out of exams, their brains are fried. The game going into the break, Christmas break,
right,
is tough as well. So it's a tough stretch right now, but I think this is where we earn our money. This is where I earn my psychology degree, which I don't have, but I should have. And trying to get them focused, stay focused, to understand what they need to do. But I was very proud of them. We didn't play perfect yesterday, but I thought Muff Mickens in particular, I thought she was fantastic. She spearheaded us on the offensive end, scoring a career high. She spearheaded us on the defensive end. I think she had like 5 steals. And just from a mental standpoint, she really kept us together. And I thought she was tremendous yesterday. It was one of the best games I've seen her play.
Let's talk a little bit more about some of the individuals. Reaching an individual career milestone yesterday, Precious Hall, the 27th player in women's basketball history at JMU to do so. The 3rd fastest. The only 2 that have done it quicker than her are also former JMU Kenny Brooks players, and that Tamara Young and Dawn Evans. When you recruited Precious Hall, did you anticipate her to be the scorer that she is?
We knew she could be special. I didn't know how special she could actually be. You never know until they actually get here. You know, when we recruited Tamara, I knew she was going to be a special kid. I didn't know how special. Dawn as well. You know, when we got Precious, we fought long and hard for her. We actually even passed up on a couple of kids because we wanted to wait for her. And she was an October get. She didn't commit until late October. And we passed up a couple kids, I won't say their name, but playing at Delaware and playing in a couple other different places. And we passed them up because we felt like Precious was the one that we wanted. Now, to say that I knew she would be the third fastest to 1,000 points, I couldn't say that. But she's really taken advantage of every opportunity she's had. And I'm very proud of her. I think she could give us a little bit more on the defensive end, and we're going to harp on that for a long time. But offensively, she's one of the best in the country, and she scores it in a variety of ways. And yesterday she came out and gave us a really good start in the first half, hitting some threes, taking the ball to the basket, did a really good job.
Toya Jiggets, by the way, just needs 34 to become another 1,000-point scorer for the Dukes. Angela Mickens, Coach, what are her marching orders for you in terms of her deciding when to distribute the basketball and when to score the basketball? Back-to-back last week, career-high scoring games for Muff Mickens.
Well, you know, I don't give her specifics and say, hey, you got to do this or you have to do that. We've done that the first 2 years that she was in training, so to speak. You know, her freshman and sophomore years, it was learning what I wanted so that when it became her time to go, she could just play. You know, and I don't ever look at her and say, hey, you need to score more or you need to pass the ball more. She understands that feel that we have. We talk after every possession in practice. You know, I'll ask her, what does she see? And, you know, ironically, she'll ask me, what did I see? And that's the kind of kid she is. But, you know, she's coming into her own. And she's running the team exceptionally well from a physical standpoint, but also from a mental standpoint. You know, the kids all respect her. I think the only thing that she does right now that I'd like to change a little bit. She talks too fast, and I don't understand half of what she says. And I have to guess.
Muff in Muff Mickens, I think.
But you know, she's done a fantastic job for us. And you know, in the Richmond game, you know, we got off to a slow start, and I thought she had I call it a glassy-eyed look. Looked like she was in a daze. And I got after her, and she responded, you know, tremendously, quickly, and she got us a couple layups and really got us going. And in the Davidson game, I didn't even have to say anything to her, and she really gave us a spark. So, you know, you can argue that Precious is our best player. You could also argue that Muff's our most valuable. You know, her and Lady, you know, because without them, things really go down quickly. And I'm very proud of what Muff's done, and I think that she has a lot of room to improve.
I've got one more question, and we'll turn it over to other members of the media here. And Lauren Okafor in her play yesterday, another double-double for Lauren. She's averaging just a shade under 13 rebounds a game. Are there situations based upon what the opposition is doing where she may not have those big double-digit rebounding contests? For example, a team that shoots a lot of threes and you get a long rebound, because she just had 4 against Richmond the other day.
It is. She's a focal point. She's a big-body post player. And that I think the scheme is to keep her off the boards by doing whatever. It's almost like I don't care if I don't get it, but you're not going to get it mentality, and they'll just push her under the basket to the point. And, you know, the abuse that she takes, you know, the pounding that she takes is very reminiscent of what Shaq used to go through. And I remember watching Shaq play, and I used to marvel at the fact that he didn't retaliate because he used to get pounded on so much. And I feel like sometimes she gets penalized because she's big and she's strong. And, you know, she'll get hit and there's no calls, and then it seems like she just nudges a kid and they go flying and they were quick to call a foul on her. But she's done a really good job of adjusting. And probably one of our biggest adversaries of her adjustment is our practice player, who he goes in and he takes the blunt of her elbows, so to speak, pushing. And he's almost like a test dummy, and we're like, look, you can't do that to him. See, he's bleeding. You can't do that. And so she's kind of learning from those situations. But, you know, she and I had a long talk last week, and she said it's hard adjustment because I've grown up, and basketball was different, where my coaches always told me if someone is physical with you, you be more physical with them. And with the new rule changes, where you can barely touch anyone, she's had a big adjustment. You know, last year was a big problem because it seemed like whenever she got around anyone, they were calling fouls on her. This year, we've kind of taken away the shot blocking aspect of her game. But last year, she would really try to go out and just punish the ball and block it, and she would go through people and foul people. And this year we've told her to just build a tall wall. You know, go there and you just try to affect the shot as opposed to blocking the shot, and you'll be in the game longer. She didn't like it in the beginning, but I think what she's seeing that she's paying dividends because she's in the game longer now, and very rarely is she in foul trouble. But it's been a big adjustment. I think she's doing very well at it.
I fibbed. I want a follow-up question on that. Do you think also, since she's in such great physical shape, particularly when you look back at where she was last year with where she is this year, is that part of the adjustment too, because she is so much stronger and kind of learning where her body is in terms of overall strength?
No question, and it's also the added plus is that she's in better shape, so she doesn't make those foul fatigue mistakes. You know, when she got tired last year, I didn't know what she was going to do. She might just, you know, knock someone over for the sake of knocking them over because she was tired. This year, she refrains from doing that because, you know, mentally and physically, you know, her mind and body is in a better place. And therefore, she's able to play longer minutes. We're playing her 30 minutes a game almost, and I would have never dreamed that she could play 30 minutes in a contest so effectively like she's doing right now. So big plus for us. You know, she gives us a presence inside, catching the ball, finishing around the basket, a defensive presence inside, and she cleans up a lot of rebounds. So, you know, I said, you know, arguably Muff is our most valuable player. If I had to have an argument, she'd be the other argument, you know, because we need those two to go.
All right, thank you, Coach Brooks. We'll turn it over to other members of the media here at O'Neill's Grill. Gentlemen?
I'm that good, huh? I appreciate it, man.
Coach, you guys have been undefeated at home for quite some time now. What is it about the atmosphere of the Convo that makes it such a tough place for opponents to come in and win?
Oh, wow. The Convo, you know, the Convo is a very special place. I know there's talks of new arenas and all this kind of stuff, but the character of the Convocation Center, even though it wasn't designed to be a basketball arena, I'm told, it just, the noise, it just echoes off the walls, and it makes it for a very, very loud arena. But in order to be a loud arena, I think you have to have some loyal fans to go in that arena, and not just fans to show up, fans that are going to really cheer and have a stake in the program. And to be very honest with you, I've played in that building when it was sold out, and I've played in it, or I've coached in it. I think one of the biggest aspects of our atmosphere is the band. I really do. You know, their enthusiasm, and especially for us in women's basketball, we really appreciate that because we've gone to so many different arenas where the band is almost, they have to be there. You know, and we feel like our band wants to be there. And they're invested in our program, and it gives us a home court advantage. You know, and you get in there and you go on an 8-0 run. That place is as loud as any full arena, you know, big arena, you know, that we've been into. So, you know, the character, the proximity for the fans sitting on top of the court, the band, the enthusiasm from the band and the fans, you know, and we've been told millions of times. As a matter of fact, one of my assistant coaches went to a tournament this weekend, and she was sitting down with the Pitt coaches who we just played. And she said when we walked out of there, we felt like we were in a tough ACC game. And she said, you guys have the talent of a UNC with a much better atmosphere. And when we left that place, we felt like it was going to prepare us for any venue we can go into in the ACC. But you guys have great atmosphere. You know, the Vanderbilt coach told me the same thing. You know, the Syracuse coach, well, he promises me he'll never come back because the atmosphere was so great. So it's very special. You know, we all, before every game, we always say, you know, the crowd's going to give us, and I'll stop, and the kids in unison will say 8 points, you know, a game. And we really feel that way, and we understand that it's a special place. When we go on the road, we even know it's even more special because, you know, we go to empty arenas, play in front of empty arenas, and we come back here, and I don't know what the stat was, but we've had so many games where we've had at least 2,000 people for women's basketball. That's tremendous, and it's a big part of our success.
All right, Coach Kenny Brooks, the Dukes will be off this week with exams, and then on the road against Ohio, the Bobcats. Coach, have you had a chance to look at the Bobcats yet?
I have not. I remember the game we played them last year. I think we held them to 33 points. You know, which would have been fine with me if that was the last impression that I had of them. But it was a tournament, and they played an opponent right after us. After that tournament, it was a game here at the Convocation Center, and I watched them make 21 three-pointers in a game. So I know they shoot a lot of threes. I know they were 6-0 until most recent game against East Carolina, and they've suffered their first loss. They play very well at home. It's going to be a tough trip. It's after exams. We're implementing a new player, so we're going to be a little bit off balance. So it's going to be a tough game. It really is, and we understand that, and we're going to have to really focus to go down there and get a win.
With exams being this week, trying to work in all the players and your team, how much chance will you get actually to practice as a team this week, and how much do you kind of blend in some of your long-term aspects of the program into a week where you don't have any games?
Well, this week it'll be more of they're off today. It'll be more of a shooting practice, and we may have maybe one or two leading up to the Ohio game, actual game. But this week, we really want them to focus on their academics, and basketball will be a diversion just so that they can, let their brains rest for a second, come out, sweat a little bit, go back to really studying. By the weekend, that's when we'll start implementing our game plan. But we won't really start trying to get our focus, our chemistry together, adding new plays until next week when they have nothing to worry about except for basketball. It's just too much to try to put on them while they're thinking about physics or organic chemistry and then basketball plays. So we'll let them relax a little bit. It's a good week for us as well because we get to go out, recruit, see some of the recruits that we signed. And myself, I'll get to see my daughters play a little bit. So it's kind of not a break from each other, but we won't see each other as much as we normally do, and it's a good break for both parties.
In football, when they have a bye week, a lot of times they'll spend that bye week doing a lot of self-analysis, just kind of digging deep into their own efficiencies and other things that are not so efficient. Is that something else that you'll get a chance to do during a week like this?
No question, and then actually one step further, we'll try to see where we want to go with the new lineups, new rotations, and we've already had one meeting about it and talking about switching kids from different positions, and so it's going to be a chess match for a long time and trying to figure out what moves we want to make next. But this week we'll kind of leave them alone a little bit. Next week we'll really focus on it, and I still don't think we're going to be the team that we want to be in the next week or two. I think once we start hitting conference play, you'll start seeing the team we want to be, and I think that was the same formula that we had last year with that 29-16.
All right, Coach. Again, thanks for joining us this week at O'Neill's Grill. The Dukes will face the Bobcats of Ohio next Monday night. That'll be in Athens, Ohio. And then the next home game for the Dukes will be on December the 20th when they entertain the Pirates of Hampton University, and that'll be a 2 o'clock tip-off, part of a doubleheader there at the Convocation Center with the men's basketball team on December the 20th. That'll wrap up Coach Kenny Brooks' visit with us here today. In just a few moments, we'll have Coach Matt Brady, the JMU men's basketball Dukes. They beat the Richmond Spiders yesterday, making it a 3-game sweep over the Spiders this fall and into the winter season. And we'll be back with him in just a short while here at O'Neill's Grill.